Robert Elliott here. I am here with John Browning, and he is from Guardian Wealth. And I wanted to have him on the podcast today and help us talk about helping your team grow, whether you're a business leader or a business owner, whether you're in sales, whether you're some sort of leader or even mentor within the business world, about acknowledging and leveraging people's differences, their unique abilities, right? Because treating everyone like they're the same will harm performance. Not everyone does the same. Not everyone thinks the same, which is a great thing. Not everyone's good at the same things, which is a great thing. And honestly, John's book inspired me to do this talk. John has a book called Build a Life, Not a Portfolio. And so he's a wealth management specialist and advisor. But he wrote this really interesting book, and I thought I'd have him on the show today because he has some really cool things to talk about. So welcome, John.
Well, thanks for having me, James. I really appreciate it, and I find what you talk about very interesting, and it tends to dovetail with a lot of what I talk to folks about.
Agreed, and that's why I thought this is such a cool person to have on the show, and sure, it certainly relates to wealth, but it's I think the themes of really being, as you said, being an empathetic leader, and yes, realizing that people have differences and respecting them. Talk to us a bit, because your book has a really cool chapter on snowflakes, how they're all different and how people are all different as well. And so talk to us about weaving that theme into, yes, wealth, but also really, leadership and helping people, being of service to people.
Well, we talk a lot about that because when we speak to different people about their finances, what many tend to do, because it's easier and you don't have to think about it as much, as they put them in boxes. Okay, you're this type of person and you get in one of these 3 or 4 different boxes, and that's the portfolio or the way we treat you. And what I find is that there's a lot more differences than just 3 or 4 or even 5. There's just a lot of differences, and it's the difference in the way we think. It's a difference in the way we process information as it comes in. And frankly, it's the difference, and let's just acknowledge this here, right? We're all emotional beings. It's the difference in the way we feel.
True.
And whether you're talking about leadership or you're talking about your financial planning, the way we feel matters. And sometimes I think we try and put up barriers and block that out, when really the idea of embracing the different way that frankly we feel in our emotions, and how that plays out in leadership or in your financial planning.
Agreed. And just being an authentic leader. I think gone are the days where we can be inauthentic and not walk the talk. I mean, people are not putting up with it anymore. I mean, look, people are quitting because they're being asked to come back to work, and it's like, no, you can't work remotely anymore, and people are quitting for that. It's interesting how everything is changing, and this new leadership 2.0 paradigm, I think, needs to be an authentic, empathic type of leadership, and all about the people versus chasing the money or the raise or the promotion. Which, my thoughts are, if you focus on people, serve, give your best, you will get promoted. But if it's all about money and getting ahead and not about helping people win, that's what a leader does, in my opinion. It takes responsibility for anything they want to have accomplished, including things that may not be their responsibility. Doesn't mean they have to do it. They can delegate. That's what a good leader does. But taking that responsibility. And so this is why I wanted to have you on. You had some great thoughts on leadership, and just like money, when what you chase will run, like I said. And it's that building a life versus a portfolio. Having the interest of life, and how do I maximize and live in balance, life work balance, life travel and enjoyment balance. Now, I don't know if the statistic is totally correct now, but years ago, not that many years ago, people would die on average 3 years after they retired. It's very sad, 2 to 3 years after. That might have changed, but not by that much. And I think, like you say in your amazing book, by the way, guys, it's available on Amazon. Build a Life, Not a Portfolio. It is a great theme in your book too. It's about building a life that's sustainable and enjoying life now, while, yes, building a great reserve for retirement. But also, if you want to climb that mountain, do it now versus when you're 60 or 70 and have all that money already retired or whatever. You save. Now I can enjoy life. Well, I don't know. Can you climb a mountain at 60 or 70? Hopefully, but you
Yeah,
never know.
maybe. That'd be
You know,
great, you know?
you know, exactly. Or skydiving. I want to skydive this summer. Can I do that at 60, 70? Probably, maybe. I don't know, but you never know. And I think you're right that we never, COVID and this whole thing has shown us, you never know what's going to happen in life. You never know what's going to throw at you. So be smart is my thinking. And I love your thoughts on this too, what you advise people. Be smart and also enjoy life. What are some things you advise people, leaders, or both in terms of getting the most out of life and leadership, and fun and enjoyment?
Well, it's really fascinating what you said there about, and I know you've used this phrase too. What you chase will run from you, which I think is really really a good analogy to think about. So if you're chasing money, and I've seen it, and frankly, just for honesty's sake here, that was me. When I worked on Wall Street, I was getting up, going to work, and I would get up at 5 a.m. or sometimes earlier, and I would work till 10, 11, 12 at night every single day, and usually part of the weekends, a big part of the weekends as well. And yeah, I got paid really well. And, I could, it provided for things for my family, but I tell you, they didn't know who I was. Yeah, they never saw me. And there, even to the extreme, there even began to be a little bit of resentment there. Yeah, I was never around. I don't care about all this money. So there's that, and that can be with anything. And I think the focus that we have, especially if it's a big one, like another sad statistic, if we're talking sad statistics here, right,
Right on, right on.
is that there are a lot of divorces after like 25 years. And why? Why does that happen? And generally speaking, it's because the kids are gone.
Hmm.
And you found out that, oh, we've been living life for our kids, and we haven't really
True.
connected as a couple. Suddenly the kids aren't around anymore. Who is this person? I kind of don't really like you anymore. Or I
Yeah,
don't
or what's
remember.
their common? What do we like? What's their commonality? Yeah, it's a very good point. Or the kids held it together, or it was less of an issue if one parent was never home or one spouse was never home because well the kids were there to entertain and take care of. But you're right that if no one's there, no one's ever home. Why am I with this person? I never get to see them.
And the same thing goes for business. If you're working on this big project, and the team's really focused, and you don't have a leader that is, yes, doing that, but isn't up a little bit higher and looking out further to that next project and planning ahead, then you can end up with layoffs. You can end up with just people getting burnt out on such and such. There's always that give and take between what's going on right in front of your nose and being able to see out in front of you. And that frankly, I think you'll agree with this. That's a big part of what a leader does, is they look out just a little bit further. Yes, they're here on the project, but they look out a little bit further, and they're making plans, and they're making small or large tactical moves so that the bigger picture gets accomplished many years maybe down the road.
True. True. I think it's a very valid point. And it's like I remember teaching me in driver's ed when I was learning to drive, and
Yeah.
they taught us all about instead of focusing on what's coming right in front of your car, focus a bit further out. And I think you're right. A great leader can do that and see what's coming, and say, "Oh, I've seen this before. Watch out, guys, because this and that." And you can, a good leader can prepare people or help them shelter the storm, prepare them for it, whatever. But I think that's a really great point that you mentioned. It's just be there for your staff, walk the talk, help them, protect them, take care of them, make them feel safe, and they will trust you. You go to battle for them, you walk the talk. They'll go to I've seen managers back at unnamed companies where I used to work, they end up throwing employees under the bus, or supervisors throwing employees under the bus, versus again the whole theme of take responsibility. You know what, this was my screw up too. They made it, but I'm the supervisor, the manager, the leader, the VP. I take responsibility too. It was both of our screw up. We're going to fix this. We're going to make it better. We'll make sure it doesn't happen, and support each other versus just the blame game, which nothing improves other than someone looks like crap who and maybe it wasn't that bad of a thing, or maybe they just don't have the support or the leadership they need, or the training or the whatever, and no one knows that how to support this person and their unique differences. Maybe they are more of an auditory learner or more of a visual learner. They need more visual types of learning and information, emails, things to see. I'm one of those people. I can have a conversation on the phone, but afterwards I need a follow up or something to look at, or a Zoom or notes or a website or a form or something to really, something to read to really get it. Other people need to be taken through something. More tactile learners, still more people, and this is a subset of people, smaller subset, but they need to be very detailed, and they all the data, all the details, all they have like mounds of research that would bore the hell out of me, actually, get it and to understand. And you said something earlier that was valuable, and I love your thoughts on this. Being an empathetic leader, realizing that people are different, and that's a good thing, and not for the love of Pete, treating everyone like the same thing. What can happen whether it's you and your business working with your clients, whether it's a business leader, a business owner, what happens? What can happen, and what harm can be done when you treat everyone in a box? Everyone is the exact same.
Well, I think the first thing that happens is one or maybe sometimes all of the individuals on your team or whoever it is you're talking to begin to feel that they're not valued.
That's fair.
Because when somebody feels like they're not valued, they're going to be looking for a next opportunity, or they're going to be looking for reasons to stay home and maybe scroll through their feeds instead of actually working on the project because oh, why bother? Nobody appreciates me. And that's a real feel. I mean, we meaning older people like myself who've been through this tend to be like, oh, those are those younger people who just don't want to work. But really what the truth is, what I found when I was an executive on Wall Street, I found that it was really because as the older person, as a senior person, I wasn't valuing the younger person's point of view and perspective. And I think that's the number one thing that happens when you don't recognize the value in the differences.
I think you're right. And the age is into your point. Oh, they're young, or they don't know this, or they're this, or they're that, or whatever stereotypes or whatever out there. I think you're right. We can lose a lot. And I found that at first many years ago. And then I started being able to learn from my clients or learn from kids. I'm like, that is genius. I'm going to start using, I said to this little girl one time, I said, that is so amazing. Where did you learn that? And she's like, I don't know. It kind of just makes sense. I'm like, she was like 11. I'm like, can I use that in my presentation? She's like, of course. It was so funny. I'm like, my nieces, my nephews, it's amazing some things that people say, or my students or my clients, just our audience feedback, audience questions. Someone will ask a question. I'm like, wow, that is genius. And to your point, sometimes it's people that they're younger or maybe not in leadership roles if I'm teaching them, or maybe they're in a junior position, but the amount of learning and things you can learn, I think are great. And I think that's also why we have this great resignation. And again, people home distracted or people distracted at work even. It's because they don't feel like they're valuable. They don't feel respected. And why would they give their best? If they don't think their best is going to ever be enough or make an impact or make a difference, why would they give their best?
That's exactly right. I think what's a really good illustration of this is I have lots of clients, right? But there are three in particular that I'm thinking about right now that when I speak to them, one of them is a surgeon, one of them is literally a rocket scientist.
Wow, cool.
And another one is just this retired gal. I call her a gal. She's older than I am, but a retired gal. And she likes to read. And so she'll ask questions, and she's got expertise in the area of environmental social governance. So we start to have these conversations, and suddenly I'm like, what, that's a really great idea I hadn't thought about. There's no way that I can keep track of all the information in the world about our every single investment that's out there. The surgeon, I'll ask him and say, hey, how do you feel? I mean, I'll do the analysis and the number crunching on the individual security or the company, but do you use this particular product, or do you use this company, and what do you think of them? And sometimes he's told me, he's like, they have horrible customer service. None of the doctors like them. As soon as there's a substitute, and there is one coming out over here, I don't see them retaining their market share. And it was great insight. If I just said, hey, we're buying this, that, and that, we're putting the portfolio together this way, and I didn't listen. And the same thing with my rocket science guy. He's like, I'll ask him questions about, certain technical aspects that I know I'm probably never going to understand fully as a financial guy. And he gives me great insight on that side of things too.
Very
So
cool. Very cool.
That's just another example of how it can work really well.
I love it. And that's why I love the theme of your book, build a life, not a portfolio. It's making it all about serving people versus about the numbers. And I mean, I work for big companies. I'll say it. I work for IBM, and it was all about the numbers. And it was interesting how, and now IBM is struggling a bit in the market lately, among some of the more younger, more entrepreneurial, more culture-centric, culture-focused people. And I think IBM is learning a good lesson as well around this also. And it's just interesting, like you said, it's treat people like people. And as a leader or mentor or salesperson, business person, whatever it is, entrepreneur, make it about service and make it about your fulfillment and what you're passionate about, instead of making it about the money, because people could tell if you're only there for the money or for building your own success or patting yourself on the back, and they're not going to support you, and thus you're not going to win long term. Versus the long term way to win is that people, you can be influential. People, you have that rapport and that trust. You get that trust from people by walking the talk, doing what you say you'll do, saying what you do. And not throwing in people in a bus, protecting your people, giving them your best, and again, taking responsibility for what you want to happen, even if it's their job or their role, right? I'm so sick of the whole, oh, that's not my job type thing when you call an organization or the government or whatever. And it's like, well, maybe take responsibility to make sure it gets done. And if everyone did that, the company's going to do really, like you said, the one company is going to lose market share because the way they're treated. I think it's a great way for companies to grow. Incredible way for people to grow, to just have that approach of everyone does their best. Everyone is, it's like an entrepreneur mindset. I am everything and everyone. I can help, or at least get resources for someone, or find a way to take responsibility that it gets done, even if it's someone else in the company or my team or organization that's actually doing the doing, making sure taking that responsibility, I think is key. And so that's why your book resonates with me.
Yeah, that is very true. And it's really interesting. I promise only to get nerdy for a very short period of time.
Yeah, go ahead.
And just as an aside, this is not investment advice, but when we look at innovation and investing, we it's a very important topic, and we look at companies like IBM, old line companies who have been innovative arguably for their entire existence.
Yeah.
And then we look and we see what has happened over the past several years. And they've done share buybacks, they've concentrated more on dividends and all that, and they've lost something in the translation. And sometimes I think that can happen, whether it's in investing or leadership or anything else, that you begin to get distracted from what your core vision is.
True.
And that again comes back to the idea of planning ahead, building your life, not your portfolio, and that keep your focus not on sort of that immediate quarter by quarter thing, but that focus out there, like you said, like with driving. I'm teaching my last of 6 how to drive right now, so that resonated with me. And I keep telling her, you got to look way out there, but she always looked at the line, and then you go to what you focus on. You start
exactly
over to the line.
Right on. Yeah, it's so great. It's such a great thought. And when did you first learn? When did you first have the epiphany? Like I did. I was someone focused on the money too, and it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't purposeful. It didn't make me happy. It's way more fulfilling helping people, and the money does come because people realize you actually are genuinely trying to help and give your best. It just people, they're like, look, can I refer you to someone, or let's do business, or can we do this? Can we do that? It's really interesting when people see you want to give your best. When was that? When was that epiphany for you? How did that happen?
Well, I think when I had what really happened to me was kind of a sad day. So it was on 9/11. I was in Chicago, thankfully,
Yeah.
but on any given day, I would have been in that second tower.
Wow.
And I was on the phone. That was back in the days when I had one phone like this and the other phone like this, right? And we were doing the trades. If anybody happens to remember how that worked, but I was on the phone with some folks in my company that were in the second tower, and then on the other line, I had the Bank of New York, which was literally, basically a block away.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it through the phone before anything came over the TV, and of course they didn't know what was going on, and then being in Chicago and not New York, the next year was a bit of a blur, to be honest with you, because being in Chicago, we were the ones tasked with righting the ship and what do we need to do to just continue operations and all of that. It really wasn't, and this seems crazy to me, but it truly wasn't until about a year later when I was back in New York, and I had one of those days where I got up at 5 in the morning and I was uptown New York, downtown New York, I was across in New Jersey, and then back. It was about 11 o'clock. I'm sitting in the same hotel room I had on the Wall Street, suit, tie, the uniform.
Mm-hmm.
It was July. It was hot. It was just kind of the miserableness of it all.
Fair.
And I was alone again, 11 o'clock at night, alone. And I always stayed in the same hotel room even after 9/11, and it happened to be very near the site. And I could look down and I could see it was still, even a year later, the cleanup was going on all night long. And it just, for whatever reason, that was when it really hit me. What am I doing? And I started the planning process, and it did take another 15 years. It's a really bad financial planning move to quit your lucrative Wall Street job when you have 6 children. Just as a note. But I started planning then, and that's that whole idea. Things do take time, but if you consistently execute, and consistently is a big word of mine. Consistency.
Fair.
Consistently executed towards the idea that at some point I would exit Wall Street, start my own firm, and do things for what I call real people. So people that I could see, I could touch, I could talk.
Yeah, right on.
So that was my big epiphany. It was back on about a year after 9/11.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. And what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, as the saying goes, right? So I'm glad you had that epiphany, and that's why you resonate with me. It's all about service and that the whole servant leadership thing, and being an authentic leader, authentic leadership. And any last thoughts, John, for us? Excerpts out of your book, guys. If you want to talk to him, his information is there as well. GuardianRockWealth.com. Build a Life Non-Portfolio. His book is available on Amazon, or if you want to text the word life to 21,000, he will get in touch with you as well. Any last thoughts for us, John?
On the money side of things, as you're doing your planning and you're focusing out ahead, I'd leave you with this, that money itself is just a tool. It's like the carpenter's hammer, or the saw. It's what you use to make and create the life that you want. So spend a lot more time on the design phase than you do just using or building a better hammer or saw or something like that. And really the same goes, right, in leadership, project planning, whatever it is. You spend a lot more time looking out further and planning that, the end game, understanding where you are to start, but what's that end game?
Well, and then you can decide what job you want, what portfolio you want, how much risk do you want. Do you want to borrow money on a line of credit like me and invest it into mutual funds? Because my line of credit cost me 2-3%, and my mutual funds return me at 8 to 12%. I'm making money on someone else's money, or high risk or low risk, and yeah, it's supporting your life, and also realizing, well, do I want to wait till I'm 60, 65, 70, or 50 or whatever to be able to do A, B, or C, or what is the life I want? What are my goals? And I think that will help you, follow, okay, what is the career for me? What is the business for me? What is the life for me? How much do I need? When do I need it? When do I not need it? And to your point, the fact that we are different is actually a strength, and I love strengths, and I love that you use that as a strength and see that, and again, leverage that with working with people and their portfolios. And I think a lot of business leaders and business owners also need to really treat everyone like they're different, and realize that everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have, the learning, the growth, the life experience. So no one, it throws out the whole, oh, they're an idiot, or they're stupid, or they don't know what they're doing, or they're new, or they're whatever. We all have value. Everyone has different value. And I think it's an ignorant thing to do to think someone doesn't have value, or say someone doesn't have value, because we can all bring something to the table. And I think it's a very powerful thing when you realize, okay, well, that's their strength. That's what they're amazing at. Awesome. Let's get them doing that all day long. And their performance skyrockets, their fulfillment skyrockets. And like you said, instead of being on social media all day long, they're actually doing things, they're executing and performing, and they're winning. And then you're winning because they do what they love. So I love that theme. I love that your book has that theme as well. It's been a pleasure having you on. We'll have to do lots more of these.
Absolutely. This has been fun. Thanks so much.
Amazing. My pleasure. So guys, I'll put up there you go. The information for John right there. Reach out to him, ask questions, get his book on Amazon, Build a Life Non-Portfolio. It's been a pleasure, John. Thanks again.